welcome to our call. I'm on with Deputy Commissioner Dante Bartolomeo, who will be speaking shortly, a little more in depth regarding the PUA process, as well as Daryl Dudzinski, Deputy Commissioner, who is our technical resource. But before we get to that, I'd like to just give you a brief summary of where we're at in claims and then FPUC. In terms of our claims process, only about 4 weeks ago we were overwhelmed by new claims, just like every other Department of Labor in the country. We have a manual process. At one point, we had processed about 175,000 claims out of 350,000 applications. That was only 50%, and that involved radically increasing the number of claims processors, increasing overtime and all that. I know I've talked about that before, so I'm not going to belabor that. But as a result, we had to figure out a technical fix, and we worked out an automated solution to a very old computer system based on COBOL. But that technical fix has enabled us to process over 381,000 claims since March 13th. So we went from 50% of claims processed to claims waiting to closer to 90% today. We've had just the enormity of the number of claims. Just to give you an idea, we're still processing 2 years of normal claim activity in about a month. So we're rocking with that. We've made tremendous progress.
Can you email me so I can read it? All right, just read it.
We've just this week alone, we have paid out $370 million in payments. $48 million of that is from regular standard UI claims. $83 million has been from the FPUC. That's the plus up or the $600 extra monies through the program that we initiated just a week ago from the CARES Act. In addition, $240 million is and will be going out the rest of the week in retro payments as a result of the FPUC $600 plus ups. And again, those $600 are for claimants that have unemployment applications in from March 29th to July 25th. And the retro payments should all be out by the end of this week. So we've made great progress with the first major component of the CARES Act, the FPUC. Now, the PUA or Pandemic Unemployment Assistance for self-employed individuals. This is the second CARES Act program that we're standing up, and today we are expecting that applicants can first apply through the Connecticut unemployment system that we have, the same place where everyone applies anyway at file CTDOL.com. So we're initiating that today, and there will be more details in terms of the process that I'd like Dante to describe right now. Dante?
Thank you, Commissioner Westby. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We are actually really happy to say that while we had targeted today as a day that the self-employed would be able to apply for PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Act, we have met that deadline. We are welcoming the self-employed as a first batch of constituency to begin what is a two-step process to be able to apply for the PUA. Let me remind you that this is a completely and totally new system, something that no states have had before, because as you're aware, unemployment insurance is typically for those employers who are paying into the insurance system. The federal government has set this up because of the crisis and the pandemic that we're all facing, and we're excited to be able to say that we have now built a new system by which we can administer the PUA program. So step one begins today, and that is for those who are self-employed. We're welcoming them to come to filectui.com, which is the site that DOL has for filing for state benefits. The reason that we say that is because the PUA program requires by federal law that it is available to those who are deemed ineligible for state benefits. There are a variety of categories of people who fit that bill, but the self-employed is a very large constituency of the people who are not eligible for state benefits. Therefore, what we're asking is that people go today if they would like. They don't have to all do it today, but they go to the filectui.com and they are able to file an application for state benefit by using the blue button on File CT UI. What will happen is that allows them to apply for our state benefit, and after that application goes in and is submitted, they will receive an email telling them that it's been submitted. They will then, when it goes to processing, have a second email that's telling them it's processed. The next and very important step is that they will, in the mail, receive what is known as a UC-58. That's a monetary determination. That'll come to them by U.S. mail. That will state that they have a determination of a zero weekly benefit, meaning no dollar benefit, because, again, they're not eligible for state benefits. That then allows us and them to clearly acknowledge that they're not eligible. Again, that's a requirement of PUA. So required that they're not eligible for state benefits, but also require that their lack of work at this point in time is due to COVID-19. Again, it's a requirement of PUA. For anybody who has already gone ahead and filed, their application is still in our system. They do not and should not file for state benefits a second time. They've already gone through step one, and they've been waiting in our system for this point in time. After step one, as I said, they'll get the monetary determination in the mail. There's a couple things that can be done by those who have already gotten to this point. That is, one, they can gather their documentation that they will need to file for step two. And they also can make sure that if they've not thus far in the system expressed their desire for payment to be received either by direct deposit or debit card, they go back into File CTUI. They go to the green button this time. The green button is where they can record their preference for payment. If they do not do this, they will be defaulted to debit card method. The debit card method is fine, except that it will take longer, probably another 7 to 10 days longer, because basically the mail, the system, the bank, all of that has to be involved. We are recommending that they don't default to debit card, but that they do go in and select direct deposit, which can be into either a checking account or a savings account. So that brings everybody through step one. Step two will be mid-next week, by which they will go back to filectui.com. We are serving as a gateway to the federal application. So filectui.com, middle of next week, we will be asking that people check the website, and they will then see, when we're accepting into the gateway, they will see a red button, It'll be labeled PUA, P-U-A, or Pandemic Unemployment Insurance. They'll select the red button to go into the PUA application. They will be needing documentation of their net earnings, so 2019 IRS forms, 1099, 2019 W-2s, and Schedule C. Once they go into the red PUA application, the gateway there, and they have this documentation, we also are going to have available a tutorial for those that are the least complicated, I'll say, of this constituency of self-employed. If they're able to answer on their PUA application yes to self-employed, and if they're able to answer lack of work as their reason for applying, in addition to having their employer registration number, that will put them into the fastest automated version of this system. If they're not able to answer that way, they will also be able to be processed, but it's going to require some manual determination and will be slightly slower. So once they finish the application through the red button, the PUA button on File CTUI, they will be getting a monetary determination mailed to them. So that's I guess, a guide through step 1 and step 2 for self-employed who can start today to apply for the PUA federal stimulus. Rob?
I'm here. Any more comments from commissioners, or we'll kick it over to the press?
I think we'll kick it to the press, and Daryl, who is our expert on all things UI, is here with us. And I expect if there's any real technical questions that Daryl will jump in and assist.
All right, great. Let's start with Christine Stewart from Connecticut News Junkie.
Thanks, Rob. So I guess my first question is actually for Dante. Dante, you said that so people can start today by applying for the PUA benefits. What is your estimate as to when they would actually receive these benefits?
Well, PUA is a two-step process, as I said. So yes, they can start today, step 1, to get that ineligibility declaration for the state benefits, and then mid next week go into the gateway on the red button for the PUA application. Daryl, when do you expect, how long do you expect it would take for us to be seeing the benefit payment for PUA?
We're anticipating next week, towards the end of next week, when the actual payments will be made. Once the PUA application has been completed and processed, whatever the effective date is based on the pandemic unemployment situation, it'll be retro. It's anticipated to include the retro payment for each week. It can go all the way back to February 2nd. And if we're paying a week that is effective March 29 through the current time, all the way through July 25, that weekly payment would also include the plus up, as the commissioner was referencing, the $600. So it's going to be all inclusive for this brand new system.
Okay, and my other question is, people have been laid off since, the middle of March. Many of them, with the back to work date, many of them are having a lot of trouble getting through your system. And now I'm also hearing from people from the shared work program who have not gotten any payments through that. I mean, when do you decide to set up a call center to be able to answer these questions? I mean, there are a lot of questions and a lot of people are not being paid. And the longer that this goes on, I'm concerned. I'm worried.
Let me answer part of that. This is Kurt Westby. There has been a cohort of people who were paid a week or two, and then for whatever reason or reasons, that stopped, and they've been calling in, and that had been an issue. So we did a forensic analysis on that. We ID'd about 2,200 claimants who had those troubles filing a continued claim after receiving maybe one or two payments. So we recognize that, and we ID'd them, and we're contacting them today and tomorrow by phone to fix those claims, including any prior weeks, so they'll get their monies, including back pay. So that we think is going to be a major change in terms of folks calling in not being able to continue their claims.
I can take the second part of it if you'd like. I mean, Christine, we had a call center at one point in time, and then coming out of the recession, when we had 130 people answering those phone lines, and then into 2015 with layoffs, we went down to about 40 people. Through 2016, the attrition and the retirements, we got down to less than 5 people. What we ended up doing at that point was establishing this online access 24/7, 365. So we became much more responsive in that way, in addition to putting people into, the statewide American Job Centers for personal service. It is horribly unfortunate that we had to close them to the public, because we were at a point where we were much more accessible than we ever had been with a call center. But that call center and that phone system has been disabled. So we've got 25 people right now on any given day that are answering phone calls, and they are attending to those scenarios that are not as complicated as going into and making the fix on the claim. But we are, through that, we are calling people back if they cannot process their claim at all. So what we've been listening to you guys in the media, we've been listening to the legislators who have been giving us very specific scenarios. And in fact, that's how we identified the 2,200 claims that the commissioner just spoke about, because we were hearing trends, and we went in and we were able to search for and identify a cohort that had been in that particular situation. So we don't have the staff, the ability, the funding, the time to be able to stand up a call center right now, but the backlog is going down significantly, and we are getting to, and we are identifying issues and problems, and we are fixing those. And through legislators' help and through the media's help, we've been able to identify as problems have come up, and we're addressing them.
All right. Thank you, Christine. Up next is Sue Rath, WFSB.
Good morning. Thank you. Sounds like progress is being made, and that's good news. I just had with the PUA, what is the formula? There's clearly a formula for unemployment. Is there what percentage of their wages? How is that determined as far as their payment?
Daryl, do you want to speak to that?
Sure, this is Daryl. It's a little different than state and other federal programs. So we'll be using the 2019 calendar year, and the individual will be reporting their wages, their earnings to us using the formulas as Dante, and from the documents Dante described, Schedule C, W-2s, 1099s, all pertaining to 2019. When we calculate their weekly amount, the difference from state versus the PUA is the minimum that can be paid is $198 per week. The maximum remains capped at Connecticut's maximum, which currently is $649. So the range will be $198 through $649. For payments that are made effective March 29, it will include the $600 as well. So all that is being absorbed into the new system, and a little bit of a difference, but basically that is the definition that we're using for the PUA monetary determination.
And my other question was, I guess it would be hard to determine how many people you expect to apply, since that group, the self-employed, have not previously been eligible to apply for benefits. So I'm curious if there's any way to determine that. And does that federal money run out at some point, like with other programs, July 25th, that's 600, I believe, extra dollars, right? There are programs that need to be renewed. Is this one of them?
No, I'll take that. I think the program runs out at the end of the year, and they are federal dollars. So it should run from I believe February 2nd to the end of December.
Okay, thank you.
And you're right, Susan. We really don't have a way of determining. This includes gig workers as well, and as you probably know, that's not something that we've been able to track, especially not at Department of Labor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Up next, we'll do Paul Hughes, Waterbury Republican American.
Thanks. I think getting back to Dante's point about the call centers, I spoke to an elderly reader of the Republican American the other day. He lives on a fixed income. He doesn't have a smartphone. He doesn't have a computer. He doesn't have a tablet. He can't afford them. As he says, his fixed income is fixed in concrete. Libraries are closed. The senior centers are closed. And he's having a devil of a time trying to get information on how he applies for unemployment benefits because he can't do it online. What are you doing to help people like that?
Hi, Paul. So what we have is, and you guys can help us get this information out, certainly. We have 2 phone lines that we have set up during this time. Those are the ones that I mentioned that we've got about 25 plus people on any given day answering. Those are our general information lines, newly established. 860-263-6975 or 203-455-2653. You'll find those if you go on our front page of our CTDOL website and click on the big red box that says frequently asked questions under filing. What we're doing with a person who genuinely, truly tells us that there is no way that they can access a smartphone or a computer, their own, their friends, their family. We understand the libraries are closed. What the staff on those lines is doing is they're taking that person's information and phone number, they're getting it to another department that we have with people staffed who have the skill to access and establish claims, and the constituent or the future applicant is being called back within 5 days, and we are taking that particular person's claim over the phone. We have done a considerable number that way, but as you can imagine, it's a last resort because those are staff that are also processing the backlog.
Okay. And can you also give us an update on what is happening with the third stimulus program, which is extending unemployment benefits 13 weeks for claimants who have exhausted their benefits? I guess, March 29th is the cutoff date or the application date?
We intend to have that program up and running by mid-May, I believe. Daryl?
Yes. The goal is for the pandemic extended unemployment compensation application will be available, and the system is expected to be available by the end of next week. And our anticipation would be the following week would be the payment. This is for the individuals that have exhausted state 26 weeks of unemployment insurance, and then potentially would be eligible for the additional 13 weeks under the federal extension. The federal PEUC extension is for effective March 29 and runs through the end of the calendar year. So for Connecticut, that would be week ending December 26th, the same end date as the PUA.
Okay, and there's been some questions raised about eligibility for unemployment benefits if you are recalled to work and decide not to go back because you don't think it's safe. What sort of discussions are you having at the Labor Department regarding this issue?
So there's a couple things. So if someone is applying for state benefits and their employer has called them back, then they have an obligation to go back as far as whether or not they're eligible for benefits. So if they are being offered their position back and they're declining that, they may not end up being eligible for state benefits. However, there are criteria that would allow them to be able to have the PUA benefits, and that those do say specifically that they have to be able or available unless they cannot work because an individual household member or one under their care is diagnosed, they have a child or another that they attend to that's not able to go to school or another facility due to closure because of the pandemic. So there's a variety of criteria and reasons why they would be able to receive the PUA even though they're able and available to go back to work. If the employer is calling them back, though, and they say they're not going to come back, they can't just do that because they want to earn unemployment with this additional $600. In that case, the employer file an appeal, and then it would go to the appeal process by which we would look individually at why they denied coming back. And that would be a consideration, but it cannot just be because I wanted to earn additional unemployment plus the $600.
Okay, thank you.
So these cases tend to be, can easily be cases that have to be determined on an individual basis. They get complicated.
All right, thank you, Paul. Up next is Steve Singer, Hartford Courant.
All right, thanks, Rob. This question's for Commissioner Westby. The Economist yesterday put out an interesting demographic study of the people, preliminary so far, who've applied for unemployment insurance. I'm guessing you saw it, and I'm wondering, anything surprised you about it? It seemed like retail and healthcare got hardest hit, and people in their 20s, which kind of surprised me a little bit among age groups. So I was wondering if anything stood out when you saw that.
No, it didn't surprise me at all. I think those generally those demographics have been hard hit, and those are the folks that work in those industries. So I'm not surprised at all. You know, there's a racial component, there's an economic component in terms of there's a class component, and there's a clear differences that certainly are the case.
How do you hope it'll be used, this data?
Well,
it's out there. I mean, you guys put it out for a reason. How do you hope it'll be used by policymakers?
We put it out because we have it. It's up for the policymakers to do that. But if there's any ways to develop safer systems in those industries, certainly supermarkets, for example. And I know that the administration and the representatives of workers at supermarkets, for example, and the same with retail, have to find ways to be as safe as possible. And I know the governor has been extremely proactive in putting out those measures where appropriate. What we don't want to see is situations like we see in the Midwest, where people are forced to work without any protections. We have to have as many protections as possible. We have to protect the disenfranchised in those industries where people are working together as much as possible. So that's a work in progress.
I'd also like to add that we did put it out as a service because it was a request that came in. The commissioner and I have been on the governor's calls with municipalities every week, and it was something that was repeatedly asked for. If they could get an idea of what was happening in their own towns and in their own communities, so that they could use that as they saw fit. So it was a request that came to us. We responded to that, and we hope that it's being viewed as a service. Because they seem to be asking for it.
It came from the request was from the municipalities, you said?
Originally, it did. There were a lot of questions. There were a lot of questions from the municipalities regarding their budgeting, and we didn't have the disaggregated data for that, more in real time. We had lagged monthly data, but so now we have some more up-to-date data. But I got to warn you, the first tranche of data that we've put out is not complete. It has initial claim data in it. It does not have continued claim data, and there still is a bit of a lag. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. But we're developing a more robust system as we're moving along here.
Wyndham, for example, had had the most right after out-of-state workers. So I guess that shows that there's more data to come, because Wyndham is obviously not among the biggest towns in the state.
Could be.
All right,
Thank you.
Keith. Up next is Keith Faniff, Connecticut Mirror. Keith Faniff, Connecticut Mirror. All right, we'll come back to Keith. Sabina from WTNH.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thanks for holding the press conference. So I just wanted to be clear, those two numbers, because we have also been getting a lot of viewers who are saying they're calling several different numbers and can't get through. So those two numbers that Commissioner Bartolomeo mentioned, those are the numbers to call. And if you have a specific question about your claim, you can leave a message and get a call back from somebody who is more able to help you with a specific claim?
Nope, that's incorrect, actually.
Okay.
So those are the numbers to call for the general information. People on those lines will help walk someone through their online application if they need, and help them in a general way. However, they are also, if there is someone who genuinely, truly is unable to access a mobile or smartphone, cannot access their friends, their family's computer, and they have no other way to apply, then the staff that are answering those phones are aware that in that particular situation, they can take the person's number and have a claim taker call them back within 5 days to manually enter their claim, their initial claim.
Okay. What about the folks who they're trying to get through because there's an error on their form? They have specific questions about their application. What about people who need specific help?
They go to filectui.com, and on the bottom of the page, it says Quick Clicks. That's our online assistance center. It's disaggregated by a variety of different conditions that they might be experiencing, whether they're locked out or a variety of other things. They access an email there, and it goes to a specialist who's able to fix their application or their claim.
So what about the folks who are saying they're doing all of that through the online system and the email system, but that they're not getting a response, and for some of them it's been weeks?
Yes, so we are actually every single day as a course of business, we're analyzing those that are in the backlog or that are waiting to be processed. We're identifying different trends. That's how we identified the 2,200 people that the commissioner spoke about before that were having difficulty after receiving one or two payments, and we're putting together a fix for that group. We also have been through the media, through legislators and others, we've been getting emails that are specific scenarios, and we've been able to, one, address them, but two, use them as a way to be able to identify if there's one person, there might be more people, and fix a cohort. I don't know if the commissioner or Daryl have anything more specific to add.
Nothing more?
No, nothing.
Okay. So what about, are you seeing an issue with overpayments? We're hearing about that as well. People who say they're actually being overpaid, but they haven't been able to get through to anybody to figure out why. And, obviously they're being quite honest because they want to let you guys know they're getting more money than they think they're eligible for.
So this is Daryl. Yes. Sure. Yes, there in any type of unemployment program, especially in a high spike and again, this is a pandemic, so we have anticipated there be several overpayments, and we are getting information from either the claimant or the employer. As employers are being approved for the PPP, and they're providing payment to their employees, the employees are requesting to stop their unemployment. So we have designed on our website an area so that the person can report that immediately, and then we prevent any ongoing unemployment payments so that it doesn't further that particular overpayment. And we're also accommodating the same situation for those that would be eligible for the $600 retro for weeks that were already paid for week ending April 4th or April 11th, April 18th, et cetera, to make sure that we don't further that overpayment. So that's part of the design in all these programs that we're creating. You know, it is unfortunate if somebody did file and then something changed along the way and you know, reported it to us, and we'll work through that. We are anticipating thousands of overpayments as in any type of recessionary period, and this is beyond a recessionary period, so we'll be working towards correcting all the records and recovering monies as appropriate.
So they should report it on the website.
Absolutely.
They should report it on the website, and down the line, our benefit payment control unit will be dealing with that.
Will they have to give the money back?
They will be required. I mean, so it's a process, and that's part of coming out of any high unemployment period. As we detect overpayments, in Connecticut, the first process will be a notice that you've been overpaid, requesting the monies to be repaid by the individual in full. They have an opportunity to contest that. They can say it's wrong, this is why. They also could set up a payment plan, that type of thing. And if there was an agency or some other level of a mistake, it can be reviewed through that first level process. And then a final decision will be rendered with appropriate appeal rights, et cetera. But the intent is to identify these overpayments and recover them. And the first leg of any type of integrity program is to prevent overpayments from occurring. So it's very difficult after you pay somebody, then the employer is either recalling them, providing retro, or has continued their salary and didn't tell them, and that type of thing. So we'll be working through each and every single overpayment. It will be case by case, and everybody would have due process from the state of Connecticut.
Okay. Your self-employed system kicks in today. Are you expecting the system that you've designed to be able to handle what I'm sure is going to be another wave of people who are applying?
So as Dante described, the first step begins today. And if somebody who is self-employed and read the information from the agency indicating or describing that they should not file for state benefits at this time, that changes today. So the anticipation for step one is for those individuals who are following the agency's guidance to now file for state benefits to get the determination that they're not eligible for the state benefits, which is, as Dante was describing, that's the federal requirement. We can't pay on a pandemic unemployment assistance program if you are eligible for state benefits. So that has to first be cleared. And then the step two will be the actual applying for the PUA application. So there's a clear distinction. There's individuals that have already filed for the state unemployment insurance and received their notice that they're not eligible for state benefits, but we want to make sure the individuals that have followed the instructions and guidance of the agency understand that process today.
And so that they, once they do complete that process, you'll be able to give those payments by the end of the week, and you're not anticipating the kind of backlog that we've been seeing previously with the standard unemployment benefits.
That's actually, I have to clarify. No, we did not say they expect those payments by the end of the week. what we said is that they can start today for their first step, that by middle of next week, we will have the red button up and available on File CTUI, so that once they have their determination of not being eligible, being ineligible for state benefits, they can do step 2, red button, gateway into PUA. And then we hope that by the end of that week, to be able to begin paying out that benefit, not the end of this week.
Well, that's what I meant, sorry, end of next week. But I just mean that that'll be, you're not anticipating a backlog for when that begins.
Well, on that question, we don't know. As we pointed out earlier, we don't have an exact number of people who will be applying. We know a bunch of them have applied through the normal system already. Clearly, it'll be in the tens of thousands. So there could easily be a certain amount of a backlog. We'll see.
And just to add to that, I'm sorry, to add to the commissioner's comment, unemployment insurance is not 100% payable upon an application. There is decisions that have to be made for each and every single application. So even under the pandemic unemployment assistance, although much more relaxed than any other unemployment insurance program that the agency administers, there's still rules that have to be met. So, for example, all of the reasons for unemployment under PUA have to be COVID-19 related. And if they're not, the person wouldn't be eligible. So, the expectation is when we get the application is we'll be able to process it as quickly as possible, but there will be areas that will require decisions, adjudication process, appeals, and whatnot. So, we'll be working through all of those cohorts and areas of responsibility, just like any other application.
So by definition, there will be a backlog just by virtue of the fact that we have to get to these claims and review them and adjudicate them.
I see. For the unemployment extension, should people be filing for that extension now? Can they now file for that extension, or is that going to have to wait until you get that system up and running?
The 13-week pandemic extended unemployment compensation, or PEUC, is not ready at this time. The application and the payment of the federal extension is anticipated over the next couple of weeks. Again, we're targeting to have the technology implemented by the end of next week, with the payment following in the week of May 11th. But right now, that's a tentative target as we go through. And it's very difficult as we handle all of these programs, but making sure that we're paying properly and identifying those properly. And no one will be harmed other than obviously they're waiting for these monies, which we all know, and we're doing our best to get out as quickly as possible. But by hold harmless, we mean by that is it is effective March 29. So if an individual is eligible for the extension, it can be retro to March 29. And again, it will include the $600.
Rob, I know you're going to move on to another, and while you are, I want to make a general
She wants
statement.
to get away from the resident trooper. She's going to bring in Norwich cops into spray.
Senator Austin, we can hear you.
I'm sorry.
I want to make a general, it's okay. I want to make a general statement. In our world right now, we are moving lightning speed, and by saying that, what I mean is that for even the PUA, it was Monday or Tuesday that we received some of the final or official guidance on how this needs to be administered and what are the qualifications. And this afternoon, there's actually the first opportunity that we will have as a state to be able to have a question and answer time period. So we're designing these brand new, entirely new systems on the fly as we get guidance and as we're able to qualify it. So although, the last few questions that we answered are about, when will we get to something and when will we get to, be able to get online with these programs, please know that we are designing as we go, and we still are getting information. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, thank you, Sabina. Moving on to Lori Mack from Public Radio.
All set, pass. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Lori. Moving on to Kristen Johnson, NBC Connecticut.
Hi. The Deputy Commissioner touched on this briefly, but Commissioner, can you speak to the notion that the extra $600 people are getting from the federal government may bring them to a higher income level than they normally would receive in their weekly paycheck and might give some people less incentive to either go back to work or look for a job?
Yes, we have heard that. There have been some complaints from employers about that. It is a across the board benefit. So if you're a part-time worker, for example, and maybe receive a relatively small regular UI benefit, you get 600 attached to that. Maybe you're doing pretty well. The whole idea behind that, in terms of the federal theory, was to make people whole completely for the duration of those months from the end of March to July. So there will be, and there are, based on some anecdotal references that we have heard, situations where folks may be conceivably making more money with that, and that makes it in some of those situations more difficult for the employers. But having said that, if the employers are ready to have the workers come back, they have to exercise their right to notify the employees of that, and that sets the whole process up in terms of availability of work and readiness of work and all that, some of which will probably end up being handled in an adjudication process.
Okay, my second question goes back to the response rate. I mean, we just heard the Deputy Commissioner say you're moving with lightning speed on these new systems, but every time we get a progress report, we get a flurry of emails from people complaining, well, I can't get through. My email hasn't been responded to. I can't get someone to pick up the phone. So, Commissioner, address those people. Do you think overall, I'm not talking about the new systems, but just overall, the DOL's response has been timely and appropriate?
Well, the DOL is moving as fast as it conceivably can. There are people who have not been able to get through. We ID'd those 2,200 that I was talking about earlier. We're going to fix that. We can always do better. Anytime a claimant is not able to access his or her benefits as quickly as possible, we're not going fast enough. We are going at lightning speed in terms of our abilities to draw down all of these claims that are sitting there. We've done great progress in that. It's not good enough. Luckily, our automation has helped us to a very, very large degree. I can guarantee you that our staff is working 110% of their abilities. They're working overtime hours. They're working weekends. No one has had a break in terms of trying to handle this. Remember, this is a pandemic, and there's no system, particularly our system, which is based on rather antiquated technology, that can manage this. So, considering the circumstances, I think we've done a fantastic job. Considering that there are folks out there that are waiting, we ask you once again for your patience, and we're trying our best to get to everyone as fast as humanly possible, and we're trying to do better every day.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kristen. Moving on to Taylor from Fox 61.
Hi, I just want to piggyback off of Kristen's question. So a little earlier in the call, Deputy Commissioner, you had said that there's basically no staff, ability, funding, or time to establish a call center. But hospitals almost overnight were able to set up call centers. So why can't the Department of Labor make this a priority and get the funding to set up a call center? People are really looking for answers. every email that we're getting into our station, no matter what their unemployment situation is, at the end of it, they say they've sent emails to the Department of Labor weeks ago. They've called and they just haven't heard back. So why can't setting up a call center be a priority?
Commissioner, do you want to take that, or would you like me to?
Let's both.
We
are setting up for the PUA system, and before we are in process of training folks to handle the phones. We are going to be hiring 60 people over the next few weeks to be handling phones to augment what we have now in terms of claims, because there will be a lot of questions to that effect. So we are planning on doing that, and we are in the process of managing that right now. Dante?
Yeah, so I think we need to make sure that when we're talking about the hospital scenario that you mentioned, I don't know what their system is, right? I don't know that that's apples to apples. The previous call center that we had that was state of the art at the time, we don't currently even have the IVR phone system that we had at that time. That's since been retired. So it is not something, one, that we can just flip a switch and turn back on. We don't have that ability to do that. Two, we have between 80 and 90 people right now processing the state benefit claims, where prior to March 13th, we had about 20. So we have all hands on deck doing that right now. And as the commissioner said, we are hiring and training more people to be able to work on the PUA claims as those come in. We don't have the opportunity right now to take a few months to train people to get on a call center, that people that would be able to actually activate and manage someone's claim. We've got all those people working right now. That's where the 80 people doing it. It's a highly technical skill to be able to do those claims, and it does take time to hire up and train additional people. So if we're talking about the current backlog right now that we're addressing and getting to, and that we're, on a daily basis, looking at and analyzing the people that are waiting. We've got a data scientist that's now assigned to helping us as well for that. So be able to stand that up would take a bit of time, which we actually hope to be able to have been addressing that backlog, quickly as we continue to go.
Thank you. And then just one more question. It also seems like people who have filed before the new system aren't seeing any money still. Are those claims being manually processed? And if so, where are we at in processing them?
What do you mean before the system?
So before the new automated
before PUA?
Yes.
I'm not sure I fully understand your question. Can you rephrase it?
Sure. So the Department of Labor implemented the new automated system for filing claims. And that was in the middle or after all of the shutdowns happened with the restaurants and people started really getting unemployed. We're still getting emails from people saying that they filed 6-8 weeks ago, not getting any money, but people who are filing with the new automated system are quickly getting their money.
So Dante, if you, I'll jump on this.
Yeah,
so
go ahead, Daryl.
It is the same exact system that we implemented. The online state unemployment system was created in the summer of 2016. It is the same system. What we've done with the back end is where our representatives, our unemployment specialists, have to make decisions about key points within an unemployment application. We try to use technology. We used technology to make those decisions rather quickly. That's why a couple weeks ago you heard one day we processed 60,000, and it's been anywhere between 2,000 to 10,000 a day ever since through this automation. So it's been helping. There's no unemployment application in our system that is 6 weeks old. We have processed. We're into April on some of the ones that have separations, such as a voluntary quit or they were discharged by their employer. All those, among other slew of responses, require a manual review and a decision along the process for adjudications and federal requirements. So I think what we want to make sure is that just because you file a claim for unemployment insurance does not automatically mean you're going to be compensated. It was never intended to be such, and that's from any time within a recession, a pandemic, or in normal times. Not every claim is payable.
And one nuance from what Daryl said. When he says there's no applications in our system that are 6 weeks old, we talk about application as a first entry into applying, right? There are people that are in a situation of either their application had to go to a manual determination because there are triggers that we need to analyze their claim more than just passing it through the fast track animation. So there are some that are still being processed, and in that process, we're looking at, whether or not they're eligible. But a first initial new application, we are not at a 6 weeks back. Those have all come in, but we do have many that are still in the process phase.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Taylor. Moving on to Alex from Hearst, Connecticut Media.
Thanks for taking the question. And piggybacking off of some of the earlier questions, it strikes me that the levels of challenges that applicants are facing can kind of be triaged into two buckets. One, very general questions, and one, very specific questions that require the months of training you've referenced. It struck me that we've seen this before with Frontier Communications after they had tried to do a couple of mammoth acquisitions, including in Connecticut, and they had reached out to outsourced call centers for assistance and very quick assistance, adding kind of or bolting on a call center operation to help them out. Is that an option that you folks have been able to consider, or are there any realistic options on that front for the basic questions that you're getting, just so that people, are getting through to someone on the phone? I think that's a huge part of the frustration that we're all hearing. It's not just that they can't get technical assistance, but they can't even get anyone on the line, and they can't get an email in response.
I think that's a two-part answer. I can start with the first part. So if you go on our FAQs, there are at any given time, any given week, we have probably 8 to 10 phone numbers that can be called. The two that I read off before are within DOL. They spider off until about 25 people on any given day. They are answering and able to provide assistance with general issues. The others beyond the two, which again are an additional 8 to 10, and including Spanish dedicated lines, those are being answered by some of our partner staff. Again, the same general information, general responses, and guidance. I think you're talking about a very different thing, which is a call center that, because we are handling the general questions, I think you're talking about a call center who could actually help to process claims. And I'll leave that, I guess, to Daryl or the commissioner to talk about those challenges.
Well, one of the problems with that is, regardless of whether you hire a contractor or hire individual employees, which we are doing now, you have the same problem of training. There are organizations out there that offer those services, but they all have to be trained up, and they have no experience whatsoever with claims or with our system, which is one of the more complicated systems. We have five different systems within one system. So either way, we would have to train those processors who would be answering phones, and we've chosen to go the route of having more control and hiring from within.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you, Alex. We will circle back to Keith Faniff one more time. Keith, are you on? All right. skipping Keith. Last is Kate King from the Wall Street Journal on. All right, that concludes our questions from the media, unless there are any reporters that I missed that just got on late.
Hey, Rob, this is Christy Olds. Could I ask you a question?
Who?
Christy Olds with CTR.
Sure.
Thanks. Question about the process. So right now, today, people who want to complete that first step for PUA, they're going to go to the File CTUI website, and they're not going to see anything that directly tells them to click on that blue button to file for the state claim to get that ineligibility letter, correct?
The blue button on File CTUI does say to file an initial claim. So that's a state benefit initial claim. So yes, they will see that. We also are adding to the CTDOL homepage the red large rectangle that says FAQs. If you click on that, there's a table of contents. On that table of contents, we are going to put information. If it's not already there, it will be there soon, which is the steps for somebody who is ultimately going to be requesting the PUA benefit.
That was going to be my second question is when will the facts and will the process be put out there anywhere that people can click on it and follow instead of trying to rely on, I guess, other people and get them that information? But you said the facts will be updated?
It will be today if it hasn't already. As we're on this call, we have folks that are working to get it up there.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you, Christy. That concludes our telepress conference. We will again be releasing this recording. The press release has gone out, and we will do this again next Thursday. Thanks.